You can start.
Okay, so hello everyone. Today is our third session of Polity 365, right? Let's begin quickly. So the present topic that we are going to see is about no confidence motion. See, no confidence motion by the opposition was brought in, it was accepted, right? And then there was voting. Now remember the process. The prelims question may be about the process, right? So what is the process? There would be an expression that a no confidence motion should be brought. Then the speaker would examine whether the no motion notice is complying with already established rules. What are some of the rules regarding no confidence motion? First, that you cannot debate on it or you cannot give speech on a motion which has not been accepted by speaker, right? So for example, a leader XYZ starts saying that we bought this no confidence motion and government is not working, etc., etc. This is faulty method. Why it's faulty? Because the motion has yet not been accepted, right? So there are a number of rules which UPSC is not going to uh, you know expect that you know them deeply. Why? Because of the very simple reason, these rules are expected of trainee officers or trained officers who are currently stationed in parliament. We already saw and we'll be seeing again that the staff which is serving in parliament or secretariat is selected by parliament itself, right? Currently it has given that those all authorities with UPSC. So your officers who are passing, they either join or they are basically managing all the speeches and other work related to our ministries, as well as PRS India also has this particular competition or sort of internship, right? For every student below the age of 25 but a graduate or under graduation, going under the graduation process, and he or she can apply for 1 year internship with the parliament. So in the chat, if there are people who are under or below 25 years of age, graduate or going through graduation, should check out this internship in PRS, right? That will also open your views, your scope about how parliament works and what are the responsibilities attached. Well, now coming back to the topic. So speaker examines the rules which are connected with the motion, whether they are in order or not. After the motion has been tabled, the speaker will decide whether this particular motion has to be passed or not. If it's passed, which is only done when there are not less than 50 members, not less than 50 members agreeing to the aforementioned notice, then the motion is accepted, and then we have after 10 days voting on that particular notion. During the 10 days or specifically on the day when the voting has to happen, speeches could be made regarding it. Here in this article, they have given that no confidence motion was brought in monsoon session. Speaker accepted after opposition, which is more than 50 members, had supported the to bring this no confidence motion. And when it was moved in Lok Sabha, it finally was defeated by the current government. Now, if it was or if it had would been passed, the government had to resign, right? And the most important part of the no confidence motion that we need to remember is it can be only introduced in Lok Sabha. Why? Because of the Article 75 Clause 3. What Article 75 Clause 3 says? The Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the House of People or Lok Sabha, okay? The lower house. Then what are the grounds? Are there any grounds mentioned? So no, neither constitutionally nor statutory. So there is no constitution, neither constitution nor statutory provisions on which a motion of no confidence can be brought. speeches can only be given after the motion has been accepted, right? Until then, speeches regarding motion cannot be produced in the parliament. And finally, there is a repeat motion. So, for example, the motion was brought, it got defeated. So, can they bring another motion? They can, but not in the same session, right? So, if they could bring in the budget session or the first session after the election or the first session of your year, but not in the monsoon session in which they had already brought the no confidence motion. This was your no confidence motion. Again, revise it because it has the potential to come in prelims, right? And you only have to remember the basics of it. What? Only be moved in Lok Sabha. If passed, the government have to resign. Why in Lok Sabha? Because Article 75 Clause 3. Grounds, no grounds mentioned, neither constitutionally nor statutory. And repeat motion, so a motion can be repeated only in the next session. That is, in the same session, another no confidence motion cannot be brought. This is the process. If you can remember very well, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to remember it because there are low chances that a question would be framed on it. Next, we have parliamentary privileges of lawmakers. This again is very important. Why? Because the Supreme Court set up a 7-judge bench, and the judgment that they are relooking at is connected with a person who is getting Bharat Ratna this year. So PV Narasimha Rao, who is getting a Bharat Ratna this year, had a bribery case on him. In 1998, a judgment was passed in this particular case. First of all, what was the judgment? So it basically provided legal immunity to legislature against criminal prosecution on bribery charges. Okay, as per Article 105. What is Article 105? Privileges regarding Parliament. Now, we have number of cases that is filed on MLA. So, if a case is proven that he has done forgery of documents, that becomes a criminal prosecution, right? Because you are basically doing a criminal activity. But if someone has, taken a land, grabbed land from you, that generally lies in civil jurisdiction, right? So here the legal immunity which was granted was either for civil or criminal liability, but this particular case was related to your criminal prosecution. Now the deep knowledge of this case is not going to help in prelims, it is going to help you in mains. So we are only going to skim through a few points, which are the articles which are related to your privileges. First is Article 105 regarding Parliament, its members, and privileges and powers for them. Article 194 is similar but for your state legislatures. Then you have Article 105 Clause 2, that no person shall be liable in respect of publication. Why this particular separate article is mentioned when we have the heading article? Because it is almost similar to your right to freedom of expression and speech. So, right, like we have 19 Clause 1 Clause A, similarly we have Article 105 Clause 2 for your parliamentary, for your members of parliament. What is special about this? That here anything that you say in house, you cannot be, or there could be no prosecution or case that can be filed against you. This is sort of a very not super ultra sort of freedom, right? And this has been contested before. So remember from mains point of view that whenever you see whenever there's a question about reforms in parliament, right? If there's a question regarding reforms of parliament, one of the clause that we need to discuss is Article 105 Clause 2. Okay, then we have then they describe how it is similar to freedom of speech in parliament. Then we have Article 122, which is about that court cannot inquire. Okay, it basically restrict court from inquiring into the validity of any proceeding in parliament. So if a person XYZ, right, said word which is religiously not acceptable or humanly not acceptable, Unfortunately, the case cannot be filed on him. Okay? That is restricted by courts. The decision on such misbehavior would be taken by speaker himself or herself. Cool. Why was parliamentary privileges brought in? There are a number of things given over here. Again, important for mains, not from prelims points of view, right? Now, what happens when there is a misbehavior or there is an incident of misbehavior? For example, we are nowadays saying that certain members speak very casually, hurling cuss words or saying some words which are not acceptable, or they are entering when there is a person giving us his speech, or for example, let's say our finance minister or home minister is saying something, and there would be people who are storming into the storming near the speaker's bench, right? So these things are misbehavior. Who judges on such behavior and what the action should be or what the actions should be taken? It is done by privilege committee. It is a committee which is set up by speaker for suggesting speaker himself or herself what actions should be taken. If in Lok Sabha this committee is made, there are 15 members. If in Rajya Sabha, there are 10 members. They are nominated by speaker himself or herself, and their function is to investigate whether there was a breach of privileges and then suggest what action should be taken by the chairman, right? Rules of both the house. Again, the summary of these two lines are that who decides what privileges should be given to members of parliament itself, right? So if there is a question about privileges, right, that who decides or what are the privileges, who is the key functionary who decides what privileges a member of parliament should be getting, it is parliament itself. Cool. Then we have contempt of the house. So there is a very minute, or there is actually a significant difference between contempt of house and breach of privilege. So as I said, a member is giving speech, someone enters, right, obstructing the speech of the member himself or herself. That is contempt of the house. That there was a decorum that need to be maintained, but they violated it. Breach of privileges, that a person did an action which is condemned by some people, and then they submit that probably this person need to be tried for breaching his privilege. So breach of privilege can be sort of equated with your freedom. So your Article 19 gives citizens some freedom. Similarly, privileges are some freedom given to members of parliament. While contempt of the house is basically when you are violating the law. This is the difference between contempt of the house and breach of privilege. So if a question comes in prelims which asks you what is the difference between both, just try to reframe the question in a manner where you can put that contempt of the house is replaced by violation of law. Breach of privilege is seen as misusing your freedoms, right? Every misuse of your freedom is not violating the law. For example, many boys and other, they generally abuse their friends in a friendly manner. That is misusing your freedom. That is not a violation of law until and unless you are using words which are specifically restricted by the law. Okay. Next we have expulsion of lawmakers. So again, this year number of people were suspended, and one of the members was expelled from Lok Sabha because ethics committee found out that she was accepting gifts and illegal gratification for doing her work. Okay. What is the major thing that we need to remember here? Ethics committee. So we saw privilege committee. Now we are seeing ethics committee. Both are formed by speaker. Both of the committee has same function. What? That they need to evaluate whether a particular action is ethical or not. And if it's not ethical, then they have to make recommendation and formulate a code of conduct for members. They will first recommend what action should be taken, and then a code of conduct for future purposes, right? First ethics committee of Lok Sabha was set up in 2000, and In Rajya Sabha, it was 1997. Then there is a very significant difference that they have given in rule by rule basis. Again, this is not expected from you. This is expected from trainee officers. So we are not going to divulge much into it. If someone wants to read, they can on their own time. Next, we have disqualification of a lawmaker. So what here we saw was there was expulsion by speaker. Remember, by speaker on the basis of a committee report. Next, there is a disqualification of lawmaker. This is very different. How? Because there we have sumoto power used by speaker and president. And we have defection laws. If we remember correctly, defection laws are covered in which article? Oh, sorry, which schedule? Did I repeat? Write in the comment section which schedule has defection law along with the constitutional amendment. Anti-defection law. There was an amendment done when Rajiv Gandhi government was in action. If someone remembers, kindly write in comment section. Good. So it was 10th schedule and 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act, right? That is a case which was later brought in, which brought more clarity on defection. But you have answered the major one, which are 10th schedule and 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Then we have anti-defection law. So here we have Kyoto Holohan versus Jakchilo, where it was brought that speaker's decision does not make it supreme. That is, it can be brought under judicial scrutiny. Again, this whole article is more important for mains. That's why I'm not going to explain it in detail. If you have time, you can read it once. You only need to remember when disqualification happens. No need to divulge much into it. Just remember the conditions, which are very simple one. Either he or she gave up the party membership, or there was a whip issued, and without informing, they were absent on the voting day, or they voted against what the whip was issued for. Then if an independent member joins another political party, and finally a nominated member who joins a political party after 6 months have expired. Okay, these are the conditions for disqualification. In exception side, if a political party has a particular quorum and 2/3 of its quorum agrees that we are going to now move from side A to side B. That is, either they can be in ruling side and then they decide to move in opposition. So such movement is allowed under defection law. And secondly, here we saw that if they are abstaining from voting, so if they are absent, they will give the reason to their political party they are associated with, and if the political party condones it, okay, there is a difference between condone and condemn. Can anyone in comment section quickly tell me what is the difference between condemn and condone? We have to give CSAT also, so we need to remember some basic English terminology so that we can, sail through in CSAT. Is the writing visible? Are you able to make out the both words that I have written over here? Okay, I've zoomed it again. Condone, CONDONE, and then we have condemn, CONDEMN. What is the difference between both of these words? Okay, great. So condemn is basically disapproving the action, and condone is accepting the aforementioned action with a little bit bitter taste. So if a political party condones the absenteeism shown by its member, the member would not be disqualified. The member would not be disqualified. But if a political party condemns the behavior shown by its member, the the member would be disqualified. Okay? So condone prevents you from getting disqualification. Remember this particular statement very well. And they have also pushed a time limit, which is 15 days. So within 15 days, the political party has to condone if the member has been absent or has voted against the whip issue. Okay? Again, there are many things in this section. After giving prelims, we'll be focusing on what are the benefit of it, what are the drawbacks, why whip is a tool which restricts a member from expressing himself or herself openly or in the way that they feel comfortable, right? So whip is more of a constructor rather than being a supporter or for smooth functioning of parliament, right? So there are many things in this article that we will be discussing. For now, we need to remember only the disqualification conditions. Okay? And remember the distinction between the words of condone and condemn. Then we have ordinance. So recently, analysis showed that in 2022, for the first time in 59 years, no ordinances were promulgated. Okay? From prelims point of view, we need to remember the articles. Simple hai. For president, it is 1, 2, 3, and adding a 90 in this will get the ordinance promulgation power of governor, which is 213, right? Mostly the law of president and governor articles follow either 90 or 89, right? So we'll see where we can apply so that you have a comfortable situation when you're solving prelims PYQ. But for now, let's remember that 1, 2, 3 is for president, while 213 is for governor. Okay. Ordinance, we know these are temporary laws. Once passed by president, they need to be discussed whenever the parliament is in session, and parliament needs to approve if it has to be continued. Here are two main things that you need to remember when an ordinance is promulgated. First, the parliament is not to be in session. Any house, if in session, right, the president cannot issue any ordinance. Second, any actions that have been taken in regards to ordinance, right, these are acceptable even if the ordinance ceases to operate. What does it mean? For example, tomorrow president passes an ordinance, because is parliament is in session right now or not? Yes or no? Simple question. Is parliament is in session or right now or not? cool, कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है. We need to stay aware of current happenings. This is also part of it. No problem. So, for example, let's say the parliament is not in session and president issued an ordinance which says that every vehicle that you will be purchasing from now on, you need to pay a flat GST of 20%. ठीक है. We very well know that there is no bracket of 20% in GST, but president issued such an ordinance. The parliament did not held session for next 6 weeks. There is a law which says that ordinance which are promulgated, they cease to operate 6 weeks from the date when the next session starts, right? So till the parliament is not in session, okay, no issue. The session starts and maybe house disagrees. House says no, the ordinance is faulty. In that case, the ordinance is defeated and the original 28% GST is applied on vehicles, right? Now, if a person goes, for example, a person from government goes and says, because of president rule or ordinance, we have lost 8% of GST and we need to recover this from the president himself. The courts, in their early judgment as well as through the constitutional understanding, have said any actions which have been taken in regard with the ordinance issued are not judged till the ordinance was in motion or was in action. What it means is that till the ordinance was not expired, it has not expired. Every vehicle that was purchased at 20%, the 8% loss of GST cannot be taken from the consumers because they have done nothing wrong. The law at that moment in the state or in the country said that the vehicles had to be sold at 20%, and hence every person who has bought vehicle at 20% is not liable for any proceedings in the court. You cannot extract 8% extra revenue from them. Was this scenario clear? The scenario has to be clear. So if you have any problem, do comment. I'll be explaining this again, but we need to be very clear because it will help you in solving questions. Everyone who is listening, if any person has not able to inherit what I was saying, kindly mention in comments that it was not clear, sir. I'm happy to repeat it. Okay. ठीक है. I'm going to repeat this particular example. Just stay with me for 5 minutes. Okay? What I say is that president promulgated an ordinance which said that every vehicle that you purchased during that every vehicle that you will purchase would have a GST of 20%. Okay? Parliament was not in session. Only then the ordinances can be issued. This is the first law of ordinance. Second, the parliament comes in session and it decided both of the house decided that this particular ordinance is not favorable for country, and they disapprove it. So when the resolution has been disapproved, the ordinance lapses. Okay? As soon as it lapsed, the earlier rate of GST of 28% was levied on every vehicle. Now, from the moment the ordinance was issued till it was disapproved and lapsed, right? There were number of people who purchased vehicles, right, on GST of 20%. Revenue Department filed a case in court saying that these people need to pay the extra 8% on vehicles. The courts, in their earlier judgment and with the constitutional understanding, have said that any action that has been taken between the time period of issuance and lapse, those actions cannot be tried. Why? Because they were taken under the law that was governing the nation. So every person who has purchased a vehicle on GST 20% is not liable to pay the extra 8% of tax, because he was, during this particular time period, was following the ordinance issued, which was the law of the country. This is what I was trying to explain. Remember this particular scenario. If you still have an issue, try to write down now what I was saying. Whatever you have grasped, send it or DM it to me. I'll try to correct it or see what you are not able to grasp, because if you are able to remember this whole incident, there is a guarantee that you're not going to get this particular question wrong. Okay? So we already discussed what are the articles 123 213. Okay? There are some important cases. One is RC Cooper, which was probably the first case on ordinance. Yes, Naga. The ordinance prevails at that particular time, right? Above every law that is in the nation, right? So ordinance is above law for that particular time period. Okay? In RC Cooper, see, remember why RC Cooper case was there? Because there was bank nationalization. So there was a bank nationalization which was done through ordinance, and it was challenged. In this, Supreme Court said that President's decision could be challenged. That is, it is under judicial scrutiny or judicial review. Okay? So we are only going to remember this particular case, that if ordinance has been promulgated, it can be challenged in the court. Grounds kuch bhi ho. Grounds could also be it was not supported by Council of Ministers or etc. Here the main was that the President's decision or the ordinance can be challenged under the judicial scrutiny or judicial review. Okay? Next we have Secretariat of Parliament. This is a final article. Simple. As the Parliament completed 75 years, it becomes significant to talk about the building, right, and the administrative capacity that has been successfully functioning or helping successful functioning of the Parliament itself. So in Article 98, we have that each House of Parliament shall have a separate secretarial staff. About the secretarial staff, as we discussed before, these are appointed by Parliament, and Parliament can regulate the recruitment by law. Currently, it has devolved its power to other organization. There is another article which I am going to write. Right? You need to tell me what it belongs to or what it is related to. Article 262. Okay. Again, I am writing. There are two articles. Chalo, there are actually all these three articles are very significant: 262, 263, and 264. Again, Article 262. हाँ, this I know some people. मतलब even when I was remembering, I also had this particular notion that interstate council पहले आता है. So इसको ऐसे याद रखना. Water dispute is addressed first, और फिर interstate council आता है. Right? So it is your Article 262, which has water dispute, and then 263 has interstate council, right? Where you have, I think, Panchi Commission, right? Related significantly, giving the recommendation on interstate council. Okay. So 263 is interstate council. 262 is water dispute. Well done, Hadik. Now, what is special about Article 262, which I am recalling in Article 98? In Article 262, it says that when there is a dispute regarding water distribution, water distribution between states, or water sharing between states, it would be governed by parliament. So if a small line comes, see, last year we had finally used Article 262 to make a law on interstate water disputes. So it becomes very significant to remember that water disputes are to be governed by parliament. Present, or before that particular law was made, parliament has given all the powers to decide the dispute resolution to Supreme Court or courts, simply, है ना, to high courts या Supreme Court. So the courts did not had original jurisdiction on resolving the water dispute. It was devolved to them by the parliament. याद रखना, very important to remember. Article 262 says that the jurisdiction on dispute resolution regarding water disputes come under parliament. ठीक है, parliament by law can make. 263 we discussed, it's interstate council. Maybe we may counter it afterwards, right? It's important, Punchi Commission, etc. Then Article 264, again it was in news. Does anyone know Article 264? The big hint for Article 264 is American Revolution. There was a revolution in 1800 or late 19th century, right, which led to the independence of America, or the starting point of United States of America. There was a very significant statement which was adopted in Article 264 afterwards, right? I don't think you would be knowing, but remember, as it was said, no taxation without representation. You must have seen that in current affairs there would have been there was this particular statement made again and again. What? No taxation without representation, right? So Article 264 is about this particular statement itself. If you type Article 264, this is the exact statement that is given: no taxation without representation. What it means is that you cannot tax a person if you are not giving the power to him to represent himself. So our voting power that we generally read in Article 326 is not a singular entity. It is also devolved by our Article 264. So Article 264 and Article 326 is the reason, or is the surety of this country's citizen, that they have a right to vote. And because they have a right to vote, only then you have the right to tax them. ठीक है. So if you find someone say मैं tax क्यों भरूं, why should I fill tax, right, and such questions, so ask them whether they vote or not, because if you are voting, you have been granted the power under article 326. It also means that you are also liable somewhat in capacity in article 264. So if you are taxed with representation, not without representation. ठीक है. This was article 264 because it was in news, because of the uh, few very few 1 or 2 states in South India which was questioning about the devolution, and then I think from East India also 1 or 2 states, right? That is why I mentioned article 264. Coming back to the article, coming back to the snippet, which is Secretariat of the Parliament. So again, they are mentioned about how it generally works. This is very deep article, deeply written, or it's not in brief. It is explanatory note. Read it when you have time. What we have to remember, especially, is speaker and chairman can create new post in secretariat, but the class 1 and class 2 post cannot be made suo motu. That is, if speaker finds that they have to have a class 1 and class 2 staff, right, which basically class 1 basically means they are on the level of your administrative officers, yeah, IAS, right, or AIS. So those can only be made after you have a consultation with Union Ministry of Finance, which is mandatory. Secondary, which is again important, very very important from the point of prelims. Secretary generals of both houses will hold ranks equivalent to that of cabinet secretary. Okay. And then they have given additional info about table of precedents, that cabinet secretary do come below your uh, your secretary generals do come below cabinet secretary. Now this table of precedents, do we have a table of precedents in any article or any schedule? Type in the comments if you feel that table of precedents is mentioned in any article or schedule. If yes, then mention. If no, then no. Okay. See, why I asked you about table of precedence was because there was a question. First of all, there's there was a question in 2020 PYQ. And if you see 2020 prelims, there was a question regarding who comes before whom. It was again related to Schedule 2. See, in Schedule 3, there are oaths which have to be taken. In Schedule 2, there is a sort of precedence, right, ranking, but it restricts till your CAG. So in Schedule 2, the list that you find about president, governors, prime minister, chief minister, your members of parliament, your members of legislative assembly, and the people appointed by president himself, like CAG, etc., attorney general, such list is not your table of precedence. So schedule 2 has a table or has an order, but that is not equivalent to table of precedence. है ना, कंफ्यूज मत होना. अगर क्वेश्चन आता है, if the question is schedule 2 gives you table of precedence, no, table of precedence is completely an administrative list published in your Gazette of India by the president. ठीक है, there we have decided what would be the listing. ठीक है, so this was your secretariat. बस आज के लिए इतना ही. प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से जो कोर था हमने पढ़ लिया, थोड़ा थोड़ा सा मेंस का देख लिया. एक्सक्लूसिवली मेंस आफ्टर प्रीलिम्स देखेंगे. अभी के लिए वापस से रिवाइज कर लेना जो की पॉइंट्स है. If there are any doubts, do ask, or Juhi ma'am will continue.
Anyone have any questions? Please hit to the sir. He will definitely address it. No questions? All right. Okay. So just drop yes if you people want to do some one-liners, like for next 5-6 minutes we can discuss it. And thanks a lot for conducting the session. Ash, do you want to ask some questions or shall I ask? If you want to lead, definitely you can use, else I will ask.
Okay, I'll ask only 4-5 questions, not very.
Yeah, let me share the screen. Just wait a minute. Okay, I guess everyone can see the screen. Yeah, you can use this comment section or no. Let me make one more section here. Okay, let us begin. Yeah, please ask the questions and everyone please use this section only. Okay, yeah, please go ahead. Okay, so this is a good question. Question is asking the exclusive power of the Lok Sabha. Okay, exclusive power of Lok Sabha means these powers are exercised by Lok Sabha only. Okay, only is a keyword, though not mentioned, but only is a keyword here. Okay, now to ratify the declaration of emergency, pass a motion of no confidence, and then impeach the president. Okay, what should be the answer? Like options are not given to you, so it can be 1, 2, 3, it can be 2, 3, whatever it can be. Okay, so try to answer it.
Good job, guys. Here I also want to point a small thing. If you're ever confused in solving prelims questions, right, or whenever you face the paper, whatever you know is sufficient. Whatever you know is sufficient. For example, in this question, I think few would be knowing the statement 2 is correct. They just we just saw in the PYQ discussion. Sorry, Polity 365 discussion. And about the impeachment of President of India, there would be a little knowledge about it. But let's assume that you have no knowledge about statement 1 and statement 2. You definitely know about statement 2, that yes, it's correct. About 1 and 3, you have no idea at all. Do go with your guts and mark only one statement correct or two only. Your gut is most, you should believe on your gut more than anything else. No need to confuse yourself and go haywire when you are giving prelims. Just trust the statement that you know, and if you are able to find that this particular statement is given in only condition or singular condition, correct it. At max you will get it wrong, at max, right? That's a 50-50 bet. I am only telling you how to make that 50-50 bet. So a 50-50 bet should be made on what you know, not on what you may feel is correct. समझ में आया? So very, very well done. Shall I give you the next question? ठीक है.
Those who have marked one only or one, like, no, so far the correct answer is not there. Like, so far, those of you have answered, you need to revisit the question, you need to calculate the options once again. So have a look at the statements. Okay. First of all, just let me know, like, no, which statement is totally incorrect. Like, in any way possible, that that statement particularly cannot be correct. First of all, tell me. जो स्टेटमेंट बिल्कुल भी सही नहीं हो सकती इन एनी केस, या थ्री. ओके, वाई सो? बिकॉज इंडिया का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, like, no, it has not defined what is civil contempt and the criminal, because it has been defined by, okay, legislative procedures. So third is totally incorrect. अब जब थर्ड निकल गई है तो अब आपके पास बचती है फर्स्ट, सेकंड एंड फोर्थ. अब एक बार, like, no, just force your minds to think कि क्या सही है क्या गलत. Solve it again.
See, if I may interject, good job that at least you all were able to eliminate third statement. That was much more important. See, if such question comes in prelims, whenever you see there are more statements than three, whenever you see there are more statements than three, the question is about elimination. Again, you don't know whether all statements are correct or not, right? Some people are confused whether the fourth statement is correct. Some people are confused whether the second statement is correct. First के बारे में तो no one knows. That is definite. क्या करना है? In any question that has more than three statements, first of all, we need to eliminate. You all eliminated correct. It's the third statement which is wrong. After that, you have to make a choice. Now, you don't know what the options are, but since the third is eliminated, you can be sure that at least two statements have been eliminated. Again, you are in a 50-50 condition. What you are going to do now? Trust on gut. What? That whatever I have read is enough. It's enough. So what I'm going to do is I eliminated third. Rest all I'm going to assume it correct. Rest all are I am going to assume they are correct. So here the answer which was given is 1 to 4 and it is the correct answer. No need to get any confusion. You had to make a 50-50 choice. You made it after guessing the incorrect statement. Now trust your gut. So in such question, whenever you faces there are more than three statements, eliminate all the wrong statements, then see all the options that are available. If you find there are two options available without the incorrect or wrong statement, just trust your gut and mark which has most of the statements correct. Right? That is what is more expected in prelims. है ना? You are not expected to know every detail of it. ठीक है? This is the last question that I am posting. Try to do it. उसके बाद ma'am would continue. फोटोज अलाउड नहीं है क्या मैम भेजना?
I don't know. I need to check. Just wait.
I'll do one thing. मैं आपको भेज देता हूँ और आप अगर हो तो फिर आप डाल देना.
Okay. Meanwhile, try to solve this question. One of the implications of equality in society is the absence of implications of equality. Okay, try to solve it. Okay, meanwhile, mark it here. What should be the answer? All right, okay. Next question we have is this. Solve it. I would ask everyone to open it on your screen and then solve it. Might be like, no, the fonts are small, so it might not be visible to you. So the statements I can read is the first statement says, a bill amending the constitution requires a prior recommendation of president. A bill which is talking about the amendment of the constitution, okay? So that requires the prior recommendation. Is it right or not? You have to identify. Second says, when a constitution amendment bill is presented to the President of India, it is obligatory to give the assent. Okay, it is obligatory or not? Try to identify. Third statement says that Constitution Amendment Bill must be passed by both the houses by the special majority, including there is no joint sitting. Okay, so go one by one. Try to point out the statements and identify their nature as well. Okay, since many of you have marked 2 and 3 as your answer, can anyone tell me that which constitutional amendment made it obligatory for the president to give assent? Like earlier it was not that way. Okay, पहले ऐसा नहीं था. एक amendment आया था जिसकी वजह से ये possible हो पाया था. तो anyone can tell me, क्योंकि आपने आंसर 2 and 3 लगाया, तो I wish to listen the reasoning as well. So what do you? "42nd constitutional amendment, is it? 24,
हाँ सही है.
24 it was. Okay. Now, what shall be the final answer? If anyone wants to bring any kind of change in your answers.
I think everyone is agreeing that 2 and 3 are correct and no issues with it. So, if ma'am is has anything to add extra to this particular question, well and good. नहीं तो can I ask another thing before I conclude?
Sure. Yes, yes, yes. Only one question if you people can answer it. Like, no, there is a bill जिसमें प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन लगता है प्रेसिडेंट का. देयर इज अ बिल. वो कौन सा बिल होता है जिसमें रिकमेंडेशन इंपॉर्टेंट है? लाइक उसके बिना नहीं हो सकता. मनी बिल. ओके. अच्छा, सपोज एक और स्टेटमेंट है, मनी बिल के लिए प्रेसिडेंट को रिकमेंडेशन, सॉरी, प्रेसिडेंट को असेंट देना ही पड़ता है. इज इट? ऐसा है कि मनी बिल के लिए प्रेसिडेंट को असेंट देना ही होगा?
आर्टिकल भी बता दो जिसमें ये है।
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, जो मनी बिल होता है, ठीक है, उसमें असेंट दे भी सकते हैं और लाइक नो उसको विद होल्ड भी कर सकते हैं। ओके, तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट बिल ही एक खाली ऐसा बिल होता है जिसमें असेंट देना ही होता है। लाइक नो देयर इज नो वे आउट, उसके लिए कोई भी अल्टरनेट वे नहीं है कि आप उसको विथ होल्ड कर लो, रिकंसिडर कर लो। नो, नथिंग कैन बी डन। ठीक है, मनी बिल के अंदर उसको विद होल्ड कर सकते हैं। तो ये जितने भी यस आए हैं ना लाइन से, ये सभी गलत है। ठीक है, माई क्वेश्चन वॉज कि उसको असेंट देना ही पड़ता है उस बिल को। ओके, आई होप आई एम क्लियर टू ईच एंड एवरीवन हियर. If you have any question, please ask, else we can conclude the session, I guess. No, we have already closed 1 hour today. So, if anything is there, else let us conclude.
हाँ, मैं बस 2 चीजें और पूछ लूं कल के रिस्पेक्ट में। ये वाला तो मेरे ख्याल से एक बार और क्लियर हो गया ना। मैम ने क्या बोला, दैट देयर इज नो इशू विथ असेंट। मैम का स्टेटमेंट बड़ा सिंपल था। इज असेंट नेसेसरी? नहीं, वी फॉरगॉट दैट उसको वो वापस भेज सकता है फॉर रिकंसिडरेशन। ठीक है, और फिर रिकंसिडरेशन होके वापस आता है, देन देयर इज नो ऑप्शन अवेलेबल टू हिम, ही हैज टू गिव असेंट एनी हाउ। सेकेंड, इसमें था कि प्रेसिडेंट के असेंट को लेके, सो इट्स आर्टिकल 111। रिमेंबर गाइस, आर्टिकल 111 बहुत कम डिस्कस होता है। जनरली इट इज आर्टिकल 110 एंड छुट्टी। नो, देयर इज एन आर्टिकल 111, ठीक है, एंड दैट डील्स विद असेंट ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट। उसमें उन्होंने बड़े वे में लिखा हुआ है रिगार्डिंग मनी बिल भी। सो कंफ्यूजन हो तो एक बार और अपने को देखना है 111 आर्टिकल। ठीक है, फिर उसके अलावा था कौन कौन से बिल्स है जिसपे प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन प्रेसिडेंट की लगती है। सबने मनी बिल बोल दिया, तो फाइनेंस बिल को बहुत बुरा लगा। मत भूलो, देयर इज फाइनेंस बिल्स टू। ठीक है, सो फाइनेंस बिल्स आल्सो रिक्वायर्स प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन। कल हम पढ़ रहे थे स्टेट की बाउंड्री का ऑल्टरेशन, चेंजिंग द नेम ऑफ स्टेट। जब यूटी एक बना दी थी लद्दाख इन जम्मू कश्मीर, और वो फाइल हुआ था केस एब्रोगेशन ऑफ आर्टिकल 370 में, वहां पे भी हमने पढ़ा था शैल, इट शैल बी प्रेजेंटेड आफ्टर द रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट। तो जो भी बिल्स है विच आर गोइंग टू ऑल्टर द नेम और बाउंड्री ऑफ द स्टेट नीड्स प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट। मैम आपको क्वेश्चन आया एक,
It can be withheld. It can be.
कहाँ कंफ्यूजन आ रहा है आपको? what is exactly the confusion? देखो, मनी बिल में 2 है, एक हमको 2 प्रोसेसेस को याद रखना है। देखो, एक आपने लोकसभा में मनी बिल लाए आफ्टर द प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट दैट वी आर डिस्कसिंग, राइट? हाँ, करेक्ट, which is also a sort of silent veto withheld for a certain time only. हाँ, you have the information, फिर कहाँ confusion हो रहा है?
Sneha, my question was like, let me unmute you here itself, okay? You can speak here as well. So see, Sneha, my question was कि वो कौन सा बिल है जिसमें असेंट बहुत जरूरी है, लाइक ना उसके बिना वो आगे जा ही नहीं सकते। ठीक है, तो फॉर एग्जांपल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अमेंडमेंट बिल है, उसको आप ना विद होल्ड कर सकते हो, लाइक ना आप उसको अपने पास रख सकते हो, ना आप उसको रिकंसिडरेशन के लिए वापस भेज सकते हो। मीन्स फॉर एग्जाम्पल बिल मेरे पास मैंने आपको भेज दिया कि लाइक नो प्लीज चेक इट आउट, ओके, उसमें ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है। पहले उसमें भी होता था कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट बिल में दीज थिंग्स यूज टू हैपन, बट पोस्ट 24th अमेंडमेंट ये सब कुछ हटा दिया गया। अब उसमें असेंट ही लगेगा और कुछ ऑप्शन है ही नहीं अवेलेबल। बट बात ये ठीक है कि मनी बिल जो है वो प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन से जाता है, लेकिन उसमें ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल है, ठीक है, उसमें ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल है। दिस इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, और यही मैंने उस टाइम क्वेश्चन के लिए भी बोला था। ओके, तो क्वेश्चन में ये नहीं था कि मनी बिल जो है वो खाली असेंट ही हो सकता है, ऐसा नहीं था। क्वेश्चन ये था कि कौन सा एक बिल ऐसा है जिसमें खाली असेंट के अलावा भी और ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल है प्रेसिडेंट के पास में। आई होप आई एम क्लियर। ओके ओके।
और ऑल्सो ये जो रिजेक्ट वाला पार्ट है, रिजेक्ट भी होता है ना, अभी तक हुआ नहीं, एक अलग बात है, बट द रिजेक्शन ऑफ मनी बिल इज ऑल्सो देयर। Nowhere it is written that he cannot reject. He cannot submit it for reconsideration. देखो लोकसभा में आया आफ्टर प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन। हाँ, मनी बिल को लेके बहुत सारे लोगों को कंफ्यूजन रहता है, क्योंकि जनरली हम सब वन लाइनर्स पढ़ लेते हैं एंड हाँ हो गया। नहीं, समझो, प्रेसिडेंट के प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन पे मनी बिल आया। प्रेसिडेंट का प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन क्यों? क्योंकि जो फाइनेंस है इट इज सॉर्ट ऑफ रिलेटेड टू एग्जीक्यूटिव। ठीक है, एग्जीक्यूटिव ही अपने फंड में से पैसा छोड़ेगा या निकालेगा। वी नो फंड में से एक फंड तो प्रेसिडेंट के पास ही है, विच इज योर कंटेंजेंसी फंड, जो कि अभी वो टेम्पररी प्रोविजन के अकॉर्डिंग उसने अपने सेक्रेटरी को हैंडल करने को देके रखा है। ठीक है, बट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे सेक्रेटरी हैज टू गिव द फाइनल, हैज टू हैव फाइनल असेंट ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट। वापस से मनी बिल पे आते। सो बिकॉज ये एग्जीक्यूटिव थिंग है, एग्जीक्यूटिव के चक्कर में प्रेसिडेंट को प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन के साथ यूनियन मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस इसको प्रेजेंट करती है लोकसभा में। इट कैन नॉट बी प्रेजेंटेड इन राज्यसभा। लोकसभा में आया, इन लोकसभा इट इज डिस्कस्ड एंड देन राज्यसभा को पास होता है। राज्यसभा कैन एक्सेप्ट और रिजेक्ट। रिजेक्शन का मतलब है कि वो अग्रीड नहीं है। ठीक है, इसको उसने एक तरीके से थोड़ा सा ट्रांसलेट कर दिया रिकंसिडरेशन की तरह। तो जब रिजेक्शन की बात करते हैं ना, रिजेक्शन से मतलब ये नहीं है कि बिल ड्रॉप, इसका मतलब है कि वो वापस से जाएगा लोकसभा में, जहां पे क्योंकि वो रिजेक्ट हुआ है तो कुछ रिकमेंडेशंस के साथ रिजेक्ट हुआ है। क्या क्या करना है, दैट इज योर प्रोसेस ऑफ रिकंसिडरेशन। सो राज्यसभा से कि आपको रिकंसिडर करना है। रिकंसिडर हुआ लोकसभा में, लोकसभा को लगा नहीं नहीं इट इज वेरी गुड, देयर इज नो नीड टू रिकंसिडर, इट वुड सेंड अगेन टू राज्यसभा। राज्यसभा के पास अब कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है। ठीक है, इट हैज टू एक्सेप्ट एंड देन अंडर 15 days इसको पास कर देना है। अब वो गया प्रेसिडेंट के पास। President, on the advice of Council of Ministers, can reject the money bill itself. ऐसा आपको लग रहा है कि सर झूठ बोल रहे, तो एक बार ऐसे नेट पे सर्च भी कर लेना, कैन प्रेसिडेंट, है ना, आज सब लोग ये सर्च करना है, कैन प्रेसिडेंट रिजेक्ट द मनी बिल? यस, ही कैन रिजेक्ट द मनी बिल। बट ऐसा नहीं है कि वो बिल आया एंड देन ही विल बी सेंडिंग बैक इट फॉर रिकंसिडरेशन, ये प्रोविजन नहीं है। अब प्रेसिडेंट क्या तो असेंट देगा या रिजेक्ट देगा। जो विथहोल्ड वाला बोला दैट इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट, but in certain situation if he feels he should reject, he can only reject अगर काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स ने उसको सजेस्ट करा है कि आप रिजेक्ट कर दो। सो मनी बिल की वन लाइनर्स कंफ्यूज कर देती है, उतना कंफ्यूज नहीं होना है। खैर वापस से आते हैं प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट पे। मनी बिल्स हो गए, ऑल्टरेशन ऑफ नेम एंड स्टेट हो गया, देन एनी बिल जिसमें ट्रेड रिस्ट्रिक्ट हो रहा हो। ठीक है, जिसमें ट्रेड रिस्ट्रिक्ट हो रहा हो, दोज आर ऑल्सो रिक्वायरिंग प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट। तो कल को महाराष्ट्र ने बोला दिस पर्टिकुलर ट्रेड ऑफ, या फिर उत्तर प्रदेश में बोला कि ट्रेड ऑफ काउस इज नॉट अलाउड इन यूपी, ऐसा गवर्नमेंट ने पास करा। सो बिकॉज ये फ्रीडम ऑफ ट्रेड पे कहीं ना कहीं रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर रहा है ना, काउ मीट पे रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया, इट हैज टू बी प्रेजेंटेड ओनली आफ्टर प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट, है ना। फ्रीडम ऑफ ट्रेड आर्टिकल्स कौन कौन से है फ्रीडम ऑफ ट्रेड के, किसी को आइडिया है? नहीं होगा कोई बात नहीं, कभी मौका मिले तो क्या करना है अपने को, वो इंडिविजुअल लिबर्टी तो है, दैट इज करेक्ट, दैट इज परफेक्टली करेक्ट. मैं बोल रहा था ट्रेड से रिलेटेड, इंटरस्टेट ट्रेड से रिलेटेड. सो देयर इज आर्टिकल 304. आर्टिकल 300 में हम 300A तो बहुत बार पढ़ते हैं, ठीक है, और उसके बाद के आर्टिकल्स हम नहीं देखे कभी भी, या नहीं देख पाए, कोई बात नहीं, रटना नहीं है जाके. सिंपली आर्टिकल 304 इज रिलेटेड टू योर गुड्स इम्पोर्ट एंड एक्सपोर्ट. ठीक है, आर्टिकल 300 की स्टार्टिंग में सारे वो इंटरस्टेट ट्रेड से रिलेटेड ही है. एंड देन फाइनली इफ देयर इज एनी बिल ऑन टैक्सेशन, अगेन मैंने वापस से बोला ना, एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर है टैक्सेशन या फाइनेंस. सो जो भी आपके टैक्सेशन से रिलेटेड बिल्स है जो स्टेट प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, जिसमें स्टेट इम्पैक्ट होंगे, फॉर एग्जांपल जीएसटी, इन सब में भी प्रायर रिकमेंडेशन लगेगा प्रेसिडेंट का. सो ये था असेंट ऑफ वो. सेकेंड, कल मैंने केशवानंद भारती बोला था, आप लोगों ने पढ़ लिया केशवानंद भारती? यस और नो? अच्छा, कोई लिख नहीं रहा है, सो आई एम अज्यूमिंग इट इज नो. ठीक है, कि केशवानंद भारती अभी नहीं पढ़ा है, कोई बात नहीं, पढ़ लेना. देखो एक क्वेश्चन आया था सेक्रोसैंक्ट वाला, बिकॉज वी नो नाउ नो दैट फ्रीडम आर्टिकल फ्रीडम जो है ना, इंडिविजुअल फ्रीडम्स जो हमें मिल रहे हैं, आर्टिकल फंडामेंटल राइट्स, राइट, ये फंडामेंटल राइट्स सेक्रोसैंक्ट है कि नहीं, ऐसा क्वेश्चन यूपीएससी ने कहीं ऐसे हवा में से निकाल के नहीं दिया है वो स्टेटमेंट, राइट. दिस वाज a judgment या part of a judgment which precedes Keshwanand Bharti. If you have an opportunity to read गोलकनाथ केस, है ना, आईसी गोलकनाथ केस, फिर 1961 में और भी थे, 1960 में बेरी बेरी था, इन सबको आप पढ़ोगे, in such cases you will find that there was a particular case which held, where the Supreme Court held this particular fundamental, that fundamental rights are indeed sacrosanct. अब क्योंकि हमें पता है वो नहीं है, सो वी आर एबल टू रिजॉल्व इट. बट कल को केशवानंद भारती वाला केस आता है, बिकॉज जो शंकराचार्य केशवानंद भारती, ही डाइड लास्ट ईयर. ऐसे सिनेरियो में वी नीड टू रिमेम्बर व्हाट वर द डॉक्ट्रिन्स and what were the small hiccups or small observations made in this particular case from prelims point and mains point of view. थोड़ा तो इसमें आपको क्लैरिटी रखना पड़ेगा. आई एम नॉट आस्किंग कि आप उसका चीफ जस्टिस रिमेंबर करो. चीफ जस्टिस अगर यूपीएससी पूछेगी, पर्सनालिटी है सिग्निफिकेंट, प्रोबेबली आपको उसमें कंफ्यूज नहीं करेगी. बट यू नीड टू नो दैट क्या सिर्फ डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर ही आया था? Was there anything related to Article 31C? जुडिशियल रिव्यू पे क्या नया व्यू बना था? What is Constitution Bench? If in future केशवानंद भारती केस पे रिव्यू करना है तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच की स्ट्रेंथ क्या होनी चाहिए? Can Parliament restrict property rights or not? Right? So आपको थोड़ा सा केशवानंद भारती वाला केस पढ़ना है, both for prelims and mains point of view. ठीक है? सो कल नहीं पढ़ पाए, कोई बात नहीं, आज होमवर्क बना लेना कि आज तो मुझे केशवानंद भारती थोड़ा सा तो अच्छे से पढ़ के रखना है. ठीक है, दिस इज कंक्लूजन फ्रॉम माय साइड.
All right. Thanks a lot for joining the session and for you to conducting the session. All right. Let us meet tomorrow. And as Sir said about the Keshwan and Bharti case, in which I have discussed already the part 1. Okay. Those of you who have not watched so far, please go watch it. Okay. See, like, no, these sessions are like no being conducted and uploaded for you people only. If you people want watch it or like no will not make notes out of it, there is no purpose, like no, it will defeat the purpose basically. So like no, just make the best use of that, and like no, develop more seriousness at this point of time, since prelims is only 2 months away. Okay, don't calculate May in between. Okay, like no, you are left with March and April only. So like no, just buckle up, complete the things, and when the questions are being asked, these questions are like no, not new. या तो वो PYQs है, या they have been analyzed earlier. Okay, तो अब इस पॉइंट पे ही अगर आंसर्स नहीं होंगे आपके पास, सो डू यू एक्सपेक्ट कि आपके पास प्रीलिम्स वाले दिन भी आंसर्स होंगे? ठीक है, डोंट गेट मी रॉन्ग, आई मे साउंड हार्श और ब्रूटल और व्हाटएवर, बट like no, try to understand the point of view. Okay, try to understand it, and jitni jaldi samajh jayenge, it would be good for you only. All right, and yeah, okay, let us meet tomorrow. And if you people want to really join the tomorrow session, no, so be ready with the previous sessions jitne bhi hue hain. Have a watch, or like no, you have the PDFs, so go through the PDFs, complete the sessions first, then only join the sessions. Else there is no use of joining the session and listening them जब तक आप पहले वाली चीजों को एनालाइज ना, ठीक है? तो कल जब आओ, पहले वाला पढ़ के आना, नोट्स बना के आना इफ पॉसिबल, इफ नॉट तो एटलीस्ट जो भी आप पढ़ते हैं, जहां से भी पढ़ते हैं, लाइक नो, जस्ट मार्क इट आउट. ऑलराइट, ओके, लेट अस मीट टुमारो. हैव अ नाइस डे एवरीवन.